Kirk Thatcher, director, writer, amazing shirt wearer, but people can't see that because this isn't video.
Shirt wear. Remember, he said shirt wear because with the accent, it sounded like something else.
I did. How are you, Kirk?
I'm good, thank you. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know when this is going to air, but we just launched last night.
Yeah,
we had the premiere, and I'm completely overwhelmed with the effusive love it's being shown by, so many people. I mean, fans and just, Mansion fans who like the Muppets and Muppet fans who like the Mansion. It's a nice crossover. So it's weirdly, I'm not used to this. like I said, I'm used to the Jim is rolling in his grave kind of things. Not, oh my gosh, this is the best thing the Muppets have made in 20, 30 years. Look, so it's really nice, but I'm actually weirdly because I'm not used to it. It's like, it's a little exhausting. Just saying thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you loved it.
I can imagine even just scrolling through social media today, just seeing how many positive responses there are. Even I'm going, oh God, I can't keep up with all of these. So I can't imagine what it's like for you who's getting tagged in them all.
Yeah, and just trying to respond, I just feel a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Allegiance to these people who are, taking the time not just to watch it, but then go out and say, this is great, you should watch it. Yeah. And already there's fan art being generated and yeah, it's fun. I mean, especially for me, because I have such an emotional attachment to, not only the Muppets, but to the Haunted Mansion and Halloween and comedy specials and all that. It's
well, this has been something that you've been, I think, like 30 years in the making.
Yeah, so, almost. In 2000 or 2023, it would have been 30 years. So 27 years, it just doesn't sound as sexy. 27 years of the thing, yeah.
So, because I remember you, like when we've spoken in the past before, you've said, oh yeah, I've got an idea for a Halloween thing I'd love to do. Tell me about the initial concept versus what we actually end up getting.
Yeah, well, there's been like 5 variations and not even on a theme, almost like 5 different ideas. The first one I can talk about pretty freely because it became Muppet Monster Adventure, or Muppet Monster Madness, a video game.
Of that game.
But the premise, Jim Lewis and I wrote a script, and it was originally a TV special, then it became a movie, and then it became a special again. And then it got canned and became a video game. But it was that the Muppets were called to the Muppets, the idea was fun. It was going to start out as a Muppet beach vacation. They're going to do a whole song about how great it's going to be, go to the beach, and you think it's going to be like beach blanket bingo with the Muppets. And then Bunsen gets a letter saying that his uncle has passed away, and he has to go and be there for the reading of the will. And Bunsen's like, well, that's fine. You guys go on without me, Beaky, you go have fun. And Beaky's like, I won't go without you. And the Muppets and Kermit's like, you know what? We'll all go with you because we're all support each other, and that's got to be tough. And then we'll just go from Transylvania to the beach. So it cuts to them going to this castle, and there's a very, in fact, I will say that I think the Eddie Murphy movie, Haunted Mansion movie, stole some of our ideas because we had a butler,
yep,
who was named Surly, and it was a human cameo. We were like, thinking like a Michael Caine type or any one of those great British actors of that age. Mm-hmm. And he was, he would say, hello, I'm Surly. And they say, it's nice to meet you. What's your name? Those kind of Muppet jokes. And so he was Surly the butler. And he said, yes, he was there. And the uncle, his long forgotten uncle, thought very kindly of Bunsen and missed him. And anyway, the short version is the uncle was not dead. He had disappeared because this monster had started haunting the castle, and he tried to develop pure goodness. His idea was if he brought the Muppets there, he could distill pure goodness from them. The problem was, in experiments, he distilled pure badness. That was the after effect of it, or the side product of it. So long story short, the Muppets all got sprayed or ingested this substance that turned Kermit into Frankenstein or Froggenschwein. Piggy was Bride of Froggenschwein. Gonzo became Nosferatu, the vampire of sweat. He liked sticking his nose in people's armpits, which I think is hilarious. Other people are like, yeah, that's gross. I'm like, yeah, it's funny gross. It's not like
that's a solid Gonzo gag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rizzo became like the hunch rat of Notre Dame. And they also, Clifford became the creature of the African-American lagoon. So those kind of jokes. And it was all about Robin and Robin and a couple other Muppets were basically trying to gather them and turn them back using the pure goodness that and also finding that the uncle was alive. So it had a happy ending. So that was that. And again, we wrote 2 or 3 versions of it, a shorter version and then a feature version and then a shorter version again. And then we wrote a Muppets get turned into ghosts, but not by being killed, but through an accident at this house. And again, they use these ideas for the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion movie. They got turned into ghosts, not that particular idea, but then we're haunting this house that this Southern, rich Southern guy had lived in, and Piggy was the spitting image of his ex-wife. And so he's trying to bring her back, and he needed all the essence of them, again, kind of playing with the idea of the Muppets having this essence. And so the Muppets had to go to haunting school, which was a huge, great second act. Is like, they're not dead, but they're ghosts. So their bodies are lying underneath bookcases, actually, giant bookcases fell on them. So they had to go to haunting school and learn how to be ghosts. And that was hilarious because it was like a military academy for dead people. And, you know, there was other people and Muppet type things in there. And then they basically were trying to save Piggy, who was not changed over into a ghost. And keep her from marrying this guy, Baron. I forgot his name. It was like Baron Jackson Socks or something. And it was silly, and it had all these Ghostbuster elements, and there was like Muppet Ghostbusters in it, not literally the IP of Ghostbusters, but and it was an epic movie script, and we wrote 2 or 3 drafts of that. And then they brought in a friend of mine, Patrick Reed Johnson, and I think Joey Mazzarino, to write. They were like, oh, that's not what horror movies, that's not what kids want today. They want a horror movie. So they did like a parody of Scream or like Freddy Krueger movies, which I didn't think was a great, I didn't read it. I mean, I think I might have read one version of it, but I know they worked on it for a year's change, doing that kind of thing. And then everyone realized we can't do a movie about Muppets murdering people, which I thought was, because, you know, at least with ours, we kind of skirted, well, they weren't dead, they were just changed into ghosts. The other one, they were changed into monsters. So then there was a version written, Jim and I wrote, that was supposed to take place in New York. And it was the ideas that the Muppet Monsters were trying to put on a show, like a Halloween show on stage. It was like essentially the Muppet Show, but with the Muppet Monsters. And I don't remember the plot on that. It's just so many, this was all before, I think, even 2010. This was Jim Lewis and I again. So we wrote a couple versions of that. So it was, either the classic movie monsters, kind of a Ghostbusters thing, and then this Muppet Monsters. And I remember at the end, I think Kermit was changed to like King Kong and became enormous and climbed a building in New York, and Piggy was used to bring him down. It was silly. We had some dumb joke at the end, like it was Booty that killed the beast, or I don't know, something stupid. Like, so those were the various versions that were written and never shot. And so this came about with when Imagineering kind of took control of the Muppets, when I met with Lee Slaughter a couple of years ago, who's Australian, by the way.
Yes.
And I was very happy to hear that, because I find that Aussies and Brits get the Muppets sometimes even more than Americans. I think Americans think they're for little kids, where in Australia, you know, you've had what was it, Mongrels?
The Ferals.
No, Ferals, yeah. Mongrels was the British one. Ferals was, so you kind of get, puppets can be, you know, I mean, that was really edgy.
That was.
But but you know, fun, and it doesn't have to be for toddlers. So I had said to her, you know, the thing I've wanted to do is a monster Halloween, a Muppet monster, Muppet Halloween something. And she said, oh, great, okay. And then we did Muppets Now. And then a year after that, she came back, and I guess, you know, I don't work for the Muppets anymore. I'm just a freelancer. So someone had floated the idea about doing a thing with the Haunted Mansion, and that got some traction. And so 2019, Bill Beretta and I and Jim Lewis and Kelly Younger, who had worked on Muppets Now as a producer, got together and started hashing out a story. And at that point, it was going to be a 90-minute movie, you know, like the other ones I'd done, where they're, you know, 80 to 90 minutes. And it was going to be musical. So we kind of bashed out the story and bashed out with the song, you know, song ideas. And then in early 2020, we were given the green light. Yes, everyone likes the story and you should go start writing it. And then COVID hit. And
Oh,
so it all just got
that joy.
Yeah. So we had, the premise, and then nothing happened on it from, I would say, early February till late October. So all of 2020, nothing happened in general in Hollywood, but that just got put on hold. So then as things were, I don't know, I don't work at Disney or the Muppets. I'm just brought in. So suddenly they're like, hey, we want to do that. We're thinking, vaccines on the way and we can start at least working on the script. So around early November of 2020, we started writing the first draft, and we brought a detailed outline. At that point, we were told it should be less than an hour, So we started working on it. We worked on the script, and I think we got a green light sometime in end of January, and then we started doing the rewrites and had production meetings. It was very fast. It went from green light to being shot from, I guess, end of January to what is it? So we had February and March. We had about 8 weeks to put it all together and get the, everything approved and get a cast and all that. So it went together quickly. But the great thing was Disney, and particularly Imagineering, everyone loved the idea. We've had nothing but, support from and excitement, not just like, we support it. It was like, this is great. I mean, you can see with all the promotions they've been doing and the swag they've created, which has been fun, seeing the stuff that, I thought of. I mean, I designed Fozzie as the Hatbox Ghost, as like how to do that. And I was the one who fought for him to have teeth and
which are terrifying, by the way.
Thank you.
Fozzie with teeth is unsettling.
And I said, well, have you seen the Hatbox Ghost? He doesn't make you want to hug him. Like, he's supposed to be creepy.
Yeah.
And, but it's Fozzie's personality. I said, the teeth are off-putting, but that's the idea.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be a corpse. So I had to fight that fight because everyone, even Muppet people, are like, oh, that's creepy. I said, yeah, he's a ghost. He's supposed to be. I mean, you've seen the Hatbox Ghost.
It is a Halloween special.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then Gonzo, not doing a spoiler alert, but how Gonzo changes in there was I did all those drawings.
I mean, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah,
don't think that skipped by.
No. So that was fun because I got to design all that. I just started. So it was fun for me because I got to do writing, designing, and directing and songwriting, like all the things I love to do on something, subject matter I love. So, so while we were doing rewrites, I was doing design sketches, working with our incredible production designer, Darcy Prevost, who was my production designer on Curious Creations of Christine McConnell. So I knew she was a Mansion fan. I mean, she's a magician. Like she, had a career of being a magician. She worked at the Magic Castle. So she knows the world better than I do. And I would challenge her to a Haunted Mansion trivia contest, but we're both diehard Mansion fans. So she was great and was, raring to go, like, yes, please, yes. I think she even turned down another job because waiting for us to greenlight this thing, because the green light took a little longer. So she was on board, and then she brought in a friend of mine who I didn't even know she knew, a guy named Jasper Anderson, who is an amazing creative guy, but he makes, like, if you see the special and you know where the crow is that is in the ride, we have our own crow, and Jasper makes those. You can buy them, actually. If you go to Jasper Anderson FX, I think is his Instagram title, you can buy robot crow kits or animatronic crow kits from him, which is great. Anyway, so he was a friend. So she brought him in, and he's done these amazing Muppetized, he would do the sculpts in 3D, and we'd print out things like the doors and the plaque on the wall. So between Darcy and Jasper and me, we just kind of had it covered, but those two really made it work. I just threw out ideas and they would go, what do you think about this? I'm like, yes, love it. Great. Like Mo Frackle as on the top of the plaque, and Menomina as the candle holders, and just, so much fun stuff. So between the two of them, Darcy's production design and art direction, and Jasper making these things, whether in 3D or practically or both, we just had, I think that's the most fun, was like, we got to create our own Haunted Mansion just with,
One thing I found that, so I watched the special, had a screener a couple of weeks ago, and now I've been on Haunted Mansion, but I'm in Australia and I haven't been on it in
right.
5-6 years.
I lived in LA and grew up going to it twice a year. So
So I very much enjoyed the special to the point where, if you remember, I texted you halfway through to be like, I need to tell someone how good this is, and you're the only person I know has seen it. So
that made my day, because I know Muppet fans are fans, but also sometimes you guys being the Muppet fans can be the most brutal critics. So because you love it, I get it. But so that meant a lot that you sent me that note. Thank you.
I'm glad. So what I did yesterday before I watched the special again was I actually went on YouTube and I watched a ride through of Haunted Mansion, just so I could pick up on all the little references and actually see like the design of like the wallpaper, and how you guys have Muppetized it, and the candlesticks and stuff like that. So I will say to anyone listening to this who maybe hasn't seen the Haunted Mansion, watch a ride through and you'll see just how many references there are, because this thing is chock full of them. Can you tell me, with the storyline of the actual special, because a lot of it is again sort of based on the ride and a lot of it's its own thing, how much of what you guys put in was based on your own story versus the actual ride itself?
Well, that's a good question. What we did was we said, okay, what is the story? Not what's the architecture or what are the rooms they visit? What is the story? And the story was, Gonzo is invited to this classic challenge. Can you spend the night in a haunted house? And the challenge was, can you spend the night in the most haunted house in the world? Because everyone else who's tried has never escaped. So his whole thing is like, well, I'm a daredevil. I can't turn this down. And Pepe goes along with him as his sidekick, but really Pepe's out for himself. He thinks he hears it's a mansion party in the hills, so he thinks it's a Hollywood Hills mansion party. We even originally had some jokes in there about will it be bunnies and grottos, and we had a gag of Muppet rabbits in bikinis in a cave that turned into vampire rabbits. So that's the premise, and then the whole thing is like, well, what are the challenges? So it's a very linear kind of story. Okay, you go to the house. And that's when we said, okay, and this is where my love of the mansion came in, is like, I kind of knew the route they would take. You'd start and you'd meet your ghost host, and you go to the stretching room and you go through the picture hallway, and then you kind of go through essentially the mansion in order of where you go through the mansion, except we then changed it around for like the third act. And again, you go through the graveyard first. That's the one difference, is because you couldn't really go into a house and miss the graveyard. So, and we also wanted to start the show off with a musical number that set the tone, and we thought, hey, let them rest in peace with these funny ghosts, but they're human ghosts, and that's explained when you meet the ghost host and why Gonzo says everything looks familiar. He said, well, yeah, the house, we took literal lines from some of the dialogue of our ghost host, Will Arnett, are from the ride. And one of the things that I always remembered is like the apparitions are starting to appear due to your sympathetic vibration. So I said, what if we take that concept and say, well, the house is going to make you comfortable by showing you basically the house is trying to get you to become another ghost there.
Yeah.
So it's going to show you things that you're comfortable with, that you like. So we said, well, that explains why, because even when some of the puppeteers read the first drafts, they were like, well, is everyone going to think the Muppets just went over there and dressed up and pretended to be, because little kids particularly would be a little lost. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, that's a fair point. So we put in that line, it's responding to your sympathetic vibrations. And what you see here is because the house wants you to like what you see. So that, it was sort of driven by that basic premise of Gonzo has to go and face a challenge, and they both have to face their challenges. Well, what's Pepe's challenge? Well, he never wants to get married, and he wants to be a playboy, and he wants to meet rich people. So he gets to do all those things. Well, he gets to face his fears, and that, meeting a famous rich person doesn't turn out to be what he expected. And then, he gets sort of, I don't want to give too much away, but he ends up in a relationship, which again is his nightmare. And that's the whole point of the match, is you face your worst fears. So he ends up in a bad relationship, and Gonzo faces his fears. Again, won't give it away, but then he has to realize he's got to help Pepe. And Pepe's kind of always a selfish jerk. I mean, that's what's charming about him. I always say he's our Daffy Duck. He's the guy who's in it for himself.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even get the Muppets names right, and no one even corrects him because he doesn't care.
He calls one of my favorite running gags is that he calls Walter Howard.
Yeah, he calls Walter out and Kermit Carmen and Foxy Bear.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's funny because he's the one who actually and then writing the script, we realized, at the end when they big spoiler alert, they get out alive. But Pepe, and we didn't want it to be maudlin, but we just wanted, I said, Pepe has to say thank you to Gonzo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's it's really like guys who are those kind of personalities. Like he wouldn't hug him and go, oh my God, thank you, and be emotional. He'd go, hey man, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I have friends who've been in the military, I mean, when they get older, they hug and cry, but when they're 26 years old, it's like, hey bro, thanks.
Yeah.
You just saved my life and thank God, but you play it down. So I like playing some of the real moments, because I don't like it when the Muppets or anything in particular gets super schmaltzy and manipulative. And so, you have to have a heart to it. And I think we do, but
oh, for sure.
That moment plays real to me. Like that's what Pepe would say. He wouldn't be, oh my God, thank you so much. You raised,
yeah.
He'd kind of give him a little grief about it and then just go, seriously, thank you. Yeah.
Can we talk then about Gonzo and Pepe as a duo? So
yeah,
obviously Muppet fans, when they think Gonzo, they're going to think Rizzo. And
sure.
For reasons we won't go into, Rizzo.
Well, it's sort of canon that they were, a duo.
Yeah, so they were a duo, but, obviously Rizzo hasn't been recast, or not that we know of.
Right.
So what was for me, I would say Pepe is the spiritual successor to that role. If we can't have Rizzo, let's have Pepe, because he has the same sort of energy, I think.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little?
And he's the same size.
He's the same size, yeah. Can you talk a little about having Pepe sort of in that duo role?
Well, I was involved in the creation of Pepe, so I'm a little biased. But what worked, I think, is Pepe is, Gonzo is, this daredevil, and he loves the weird and freaky. So, I mean, he's the obvious one. If you weren't going to make him one of the members of the mansion or denizens, you would make him the guy who wants to go there.
Yeah.
So we talked about, and there were just practical issues too, which we don't need to go into, but why Gonzo and Pepe, and it has something to do with both those guys live near LA. But I mean, that was more like the cherry on top. The real reason is, and I said, I loved the old Hope, I would say Hope and Crosby, Laurel and Hardy, and Abbott Costello.
Yeah.
And the Abbott Costello monster movies to me were so funny. And you look at them now and they're dated, but they're still funny. And a lot of it is just, Lou Costello was such a great physical comic. And they also had very, very distinct personalities. And so knowing that Gonzo's going to love this place, and Rizzo was our coward before. Yeah, Rizzo was the one who's like, I'm out of here. We're standing in the room with a dead man. I mean, I loved writing that kind of stuff. So it made sense to me that Pepe was misdirected, thinking he was going to meet, celebrities and gorgeous women, and finding out it's dead people. And, he's not doing a Shem Howard, but he doesn't want to be there. He's like, you're crazy, Gonzo. I want to go. This is not, I was sold a bill of goods. And Gonzo tried to explain, if you watched it in the beginning, he's like, no, this is not a rich and famous person's party. This is a Halloween challenge. And, and Pepe's not really listening because he's a complete narcissist. So I think they pair well for those reasons. You get two very distinct, because if you run down the lists, Kermit would be, frightened, but he wouldn't have such an extreme reaction. And also he doesn't get the comeuppance. What's fun about it is Pepe is selfish and kind of a jerk and terrified of relationships, and he sort of gets his comeuppance for those reasons. Or Gonzo is there embracing it, and he doesn't really get a comeuppance. He gets a spiritual awakening, is how much his friends and his life with him means to him. So I think that's just why they work so well. And again, you run down like Fozzie would just be terrified and kind of cry. He wouldn't like run or try and punch somebody. He'd just be a ball of, you kind of go through all the other characters, and there really isn't anyone, again, like before when there was Rizzo, there wasn't anyone who embodied that. And I think it just was a really strong story character choice. And it's just so fun to write for him, because he's not redeemable, really. He's not, I mean, this is the most redeemed he's ever been, and he's nuts. I mean, in Muppets, Muppets from Space, I had him in a tutu, dancing around, when they were invisible, and then you see him in a tutu, and he's like, "Oh, okay." Like, and again, that's just me being silly. Like, that would just be funny, and they're like, "But why?" I go, "Because he's crazy. He's maybe he wants to be a belly dancer. Who knows? Who knows
Yeah.
what Bill Beretta can tell you, because he's now built this whole personality around that, but yeah, they're fun to write for that reason, and they live in your head. Once any characters you write for this long, you hear their voices,
Yeah.
so it makes you laugh just to go, oh gosh, this would be great. Yeah.
Well, I think as well, the bride being such an important part of, the ride, and obviously the special, I don't know that there's any other character that would fall for it. I don't know how you'd have any other character relate to her other than Pepe, who is famously like a
womanizer.
Ladies' man.
Yeah.
A ladies' prawn.
And that's what I mean. It kind of wasn't hard knowing what we had to work with, who we had to work with. Yeah, of course Pepe had to fall in love with her, but why does she want him? Like, we had to, and it's in the mansion lore. So what's nice about most Disney rides, but particularly the Haunted Mansion, I would say, even more than Pirates of the Caribbean, and more so than the Jungle Cruise. I mean, the Jungle Cruise is, they turned it into a movie, but they really had to add a lot of story, where the story of the mansion is kind of what we used. I mean, it was funny when we're meeting with the Imagineering people who are the keepers of that lore. And, we had our first couple meetings with them about just the outline, not even a script. And they were so happy. They're like, well, you guys nailed that there is a story in the mansion, and you don't really play with it. You don't add characters that don't need to be there to kind of make your story work. You use what we have. And, that was a point of pride for me. I was like, well, yeah, there is. I mean, when you're on the ride, you don't necessarily get it, you kind of, what's the thing about good art is there's a lot of thinking that goes on that you don't notice, but it has a sense of completeness to it. Star Wars, to me, is one of the best universes when you watch it as a kid, or even now. I'm talking about the first one, The New Hope, and subsequent movies, but that one in particular, you watch it, you're like, oh, this is a universe that these characters live in. They're not just existing for this story.
Yeah.
Like, Luke, and even though they cut the scenes with Luke and his friends and this and that and Jabba, you could tell that someone had thought about it, and the details have that verisimilitude within that universe. So I think the mansion had that. So our job was kind of easy. It was like, well, here's, the 90-minute version just had more scenes in stuff that you haven't seen. Like, we had a kitchen scene. We had a mad scientist lab scene, like for Bunsen and Beaker.
Yeah.
So that joke where they say, I wish we had a bigger cameo, wide budget, is actually true. they were going to do a whole mad scientist scene, and we had the whole scene with. So what's funny is what it got pared down to what the ride is. So no one was unhappy about that. And I think, again, the Imagineering people were so grateful and relieved, because they said something like there have been 200 projects pitched since the mansion was a ride, since it was created. And they said they very rarely, A, even consider the story of the ride. And then B, they don't get the grim, they said the grim and the grinning. Like, we balance that really well. Like, there's funny, spooky, and spooky funny, and then just pure funny and a little bit of spooky.
Yeah.
And that was, again, that comes with the Muppets. They sort of soften. I mean, you probably could do, not that I would want to try, but you probably could do a Nightmare on Elm Street with the Muppets, but I don't think, what I mean? It would be like, well, because it's dreams. So like, if you have this evil Muppet, poor bad natured Muppet who comes to you in your dreams, and you have these weird dreams, and he's trying to get you, but maybe he doesn't, kill you. But I mean? You could kind of play with it, but they would soften it a bit. You might have pencils for fingers instead of knives.
Great. All right, I'm green lighting it right now. One of the parts of this special is that I really liked was the human actors. So you've got Will Arnett. I will say now, as someone who studied film, the name The Great MacGuffin, solid gag.
Well, and his sidekick was it's even a double.
Was a red herring.
Exactly.
Yes. And also one of my favorite characters for that brief bit at the end.
It's a Pee-wee. We laughed so hard when we came. Again, that comes from my just weirdness. It was like if we're gonna do the Gate MacGuffin, he has to have a red herring. That's like his sidekick or something. And so when designing the poster, I just said, well, I should just put him in like as a pocket square. And then when we made it, the New York shop was like, what do you want? And I said, just literally the top of a fish head, red, and just a double. And they made this great little stupid mechanism, just a little mouth, like a beaker mouth, just and then Alice Deneen, who is an amazing performer, like she was one of the main character in the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. She just had this little cameo. I mean, she did a bunch of characters. She was the Mummy from Mummy and Dottie, the two dun dun dun,
which are great characters, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. She did she did this little Pee-wee, which just we all just laughed. And then Pepe has the perfect response. That is the weirdest thing I've seen this entire night. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so you've got, Will Arnett.
yeah, Will Arnett.
Who has, the perfect voice for anything ever.
Yeah, he is Batman.
You've got Yvette Nicole Brown, who I have loved since Community.
Yes. She is as delightful as she appears.
I'm glad to hear that.
Such a sweetheart, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. I need to meet her because we won't get into it, but I once accidentally insulted her on Twitter.
Oh no!
And I didn't mean it, and it was a joke that got lost in translation 10 years ago, and I've always wanted to apologize to her. So I'm sure I'll
Twitter,
get.
So you can say
I'll get a chance.
And he vouches for me not being a monster.
All right, great.
She was lovely. Taraji was. I mean, everyone, particularly Taraji and Yvette, like threw themselves in. It just, wanted to be there and loved being there. And they worked long days. They were not. Shooting the Muppets is a slow process because there's a lot going on under camera where they're just used to like walk in, sit down, say your lines, and we'll move on. Where this is walk in, sit down, figure out where Bill's going to be so the puppet can be in your lap. All right, adjust that. Okay, we've got to lift up the chair. Okay, now Bill's got to crouch your head. So they're there going, and we didn't have like stand-ins for everybody. So, and they were sweet enough to just kind of sit there and let us kind of dress the set around them so it looked like they were. And then, of course, then you cut to the wide shot and they've got to take everything away. So it just looks like, so it was long days, but everyone was lovely. And Will just brought these, I wish we'd use some more of his ad libs because they were just hilarious. Especially
a great, he was a really great choice for the ghost host. Was that you guys going, who should this be, and having to think about it, or was that someone maybe suggested?
Well, we had a casting is always a tricky process for scheduling and if they're available, and so we had a list of actors that we thought would be great, and of course he was on there, and then they're the top, and you just go round and round and again, I have no idea about budget and stuff, but I just know scheduling is like, oh, somebody wanted to do it. Like at one point, Kevin Kline was really interested, but then he's like, oh, I have to fly to LA because he knows the Muppets in New York. He thought we were shooting in New York. So it's so many, especially during COVID. A lot of people were very concerned about being on a set. You've got like 60 people and it's not outdoors. So but we were very lucky to get everyone we got, and so happy to have them there, and just everybody loved being there.
Well, they're really especially Taraji, and this leads me into my next point, which is there are some legitimately creepy parts in this special, and one of them is, Taraji has the great ability to sort of give just a little flash in her eyes. And yes, granted, in CGI, they've done it red, but just a little flash of her eyes that's actually a little unsettling.
Yeah. Then we move in on her and she's like, it was great. I think if you ran the clip after cut, I'm like, cut! Oh my God, the crew applauded because she just brings that energy and that, moving into that close-up on her and then flashing the red in her eyes, which was... No, and she had so much fun, and she was playing with, she and Bill or Pepe, Bill being Pepe, had this great rapport, and they found this energy and that flirtatiousness that, is most of her scenes. And then when she's angry, she was just so much fun.
Well, she's legitimately a little bit scary in it.
And she walked that line, being fun and scary. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, can you talk about walking that line a little bit? Because there are moments, and again, maybe this is when we can bring up the fact that I'm never going to forgive you for the fact that I have to see old Gonzo. What an unsettling moment! That when I sent you that text saying, this is really good, I hadn't got to that part yet. And I came that close to texting you again to be like, I take all of it back.
You son of a, yeah, well, look, whenever you have any movie, you have to see what the stakes are, right?
Yeah.
What are the stakes? What's the bad thing that could happen? Even if it's a rom-com, the bad thing is she'll never talk to him again and she'll move away. And this is like, well, Gonzo would not only be stuck in this house, but he would become a spook, a ghoul, a ghost, And so that was really fun for me because I started drawing, well, what does Gonzo look like if he's aging? It's sort of a very subtle homage to 2001, where you see Keir Delay go boom, 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 and he ages in like 3 stages till he's a shriveled up little guy. So I said, well, it has to be visually scary, saying, oh, you're going to be stuck in a room, but we have, 8 minutes to show that. Nobody's going to feel like there was any stakes. There was, okay, well, he's stuck in a room. But so I said, what if we age him like to the point where he's essentially a mummy? In fact, there was a 5th stage where he had no nose at all, but everyone said, no, that's just too creepy. Because he looked like a shriveled apple with 2 bulgy eyes and a massive hair. And everyone was like, oh, no, you can't do that.
Might have gone too far.
Yeah, well, and that's the idea. You push something until you go, okay, now I can pull it back.
Yeah.
So the shop did a great job in building, and they pretty much, I think I said like 5 sketches, kind of showing starting with just a couple nose hairs and ending up with
that
him looking
withered, creepy,
creepy Gonzo, with the mosquito nose.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, and when we had a little more time, it was going to start falling off in shot. Like it was going to be a longer movie. He'd be talking and just nose would be crumbling off like a breadstick.
Well, thank you for not unleashing that on the world.
Well, yeah, that's probably somebody reining me in. I like to push things.
Yeah. But again, so that sort of walking that line between the fun and the creepy, were there any other moments that you maybe went, oh, we got to pull this back a little bit?
Let me think. And not necessarily for creepy. They lost some jokes for, just PC reasons.
Yeah.
One of the ones, and it was interesting, in the ride, there's the 2 guys with the guns there. They're called the duelists in the paintings a turn. And we originally had them just with pop guns, the flag pops out, says bang. And rightly, I understand this. Disney said, we don't want guns.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's in the ride and they're pop guns. Like, yeah, let's just not do guns. So I said, okay, let's do draw, which you think they'll put, and they pull out pads of paper. So stuff like that, but it wasn't really scary. It was just maybe not appropriate anymore. Or just
fair enough too.
Let's not glamorize gunplay. I'm trying to think if there was anything. We didn't. Gonzo kind of rotting away was the scariest thing in that one take where he looks in the mirror and he goes, Carmen, his hands are skeletal. Was probably the scariest moment that we had designed. There was nothing with the Taraji with Constance. Well, she throws the hatchet and it misses them and sticks in the window. So I don't think there was anything. Again, we weren't trying to really scare anybody. We had a couple pop-up scares. The goat's probably the scariest thing in the movie. People have already texted me or sent me messages saying, "Oh my God, the goat made me jump and laugh." Oh, and the little cameo that we have with John Stamos scared some people.
Oh, one Stamos.
One Stamos startled some people, and they got a laugh out. Even someone said, "Oh, my little kid jumped and then laughed." Because then we followed it with a ridiculous scene in the hallway. Yeah.
The special is completely filled with Muppets, like
and
obscure Muppets.
Yes.
Which is now just very quickly, Robin.
Yes.
Is Robin in his outfit from Muppet Christmas Carol?
Yes.
Okay. Some people were like, some people were wondering.
We had to put everyone in period clothing, and we didn't have it wasn't make sense to make original costumes for they're on camera for 8 seconds. So a lot of the guys, the dead deceased husbands are wearing stuff from that. We basically pulled a lot from Christmas Carol because it was all Victorian era top hats and waistcoats and things. So but yes, he is wearing his little Tiny Tim outfit.
Oh well, so maybe Gonzo at the end of that movie has lied, where he says that Tiny Tim doesn't die, and now Tiny Tim's dead. Sorry, gang.
Well, but again, it's 120 years later. So
True.
you know.
True.
What's weird is that Tiny Tim died and reverted back to a little frog, not an adult frog. You would think he would,
Oh God, I didn't even think about the
I guess if your name's
implications
Tiny.
of that. Yeah. You've got, I think, one of the best parts of the special, one of the most surprising, is Johnny and Sal.
Yeah, everyone loved that. It was a great use of them.
Like
Brian came in and ad-libbed the line. He ad-libbed the line, how am I supposed to know? I didn't marry her. Well, because people were concerned, like, well, was Sal like one of her husbands? So Brian just ad-libbed that line, which was great. Because again, you know, when you're a good puppeteer, you think, when you're a good actor, you think in character.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Bill and Brian have their own little chemistry. So they just started going at it. Again, you could probably fill another 10 minutes with all the ad-libs the guys did, you know, from our actors and our puppeteers and our characters. So that one was just so great because it explained a question people might have, but in a really funny way.
Yeah. Well, can you talk a little bit about bringing them back? Because like that, those are two characters that I think a lot of people just assumed they're probably gone.
Well, I mean, I love all the Muppets. I mean, you know, I'll bring back. I mean, you know, if Thog wasn't dust, I would have brought him back for a monster in the thing. I pretty much I'd bring Bean Bunny back. You know, I love all the weird Muppets throughout the ages. It was just we could bring Johnny and Sal back because they weren't toast, which is the term we use for when the Muppets just get so old you put your hand in and the head falls off. I mean, they literally crumble away. So so that was great. And we had to refurbish. Oh, I'm trying to remember now who we had to refurbish. Well, Uncle Deadly was refurbished for the Muppets ABC series. So some of them, that's the reason, you know, they're around, but they didn't do Johnny and Sal in that. They kind of shied away from the newer characters. So, I mean, it comes from Bill was a producer on it. And so, you know, he wasn't going to fight it. And, you know, he knows how to write for those guys. And I thought it was great. I just thought it was funny that Johnny was, you know, he seems like a guy who'd marry a ghost.
And it was really, I think a lot of people just assumed Brian was done as well. So it was nice when Brian turned up, I think. Yeah,
he's a great, you know, besides running his own company, he's a great performer and those characters are his. So I would only use Johnny and Sal if it was Bill and Brian. And it was great that Brian had the time, you know, he wasn't off doing a movie or a TV series or something and was around, and he had a great time. He was there for about half a day and had a blast, and he was having fun and just being Brian, you know, just being Brian having fun. He didn't have to worry about, you know, I think he even made a joke about me, you know, directing and him goofing around saying, oh, I bet you love this, right? You know, whatever. I mean, we're good friends, so of course I was like, no, this is great. And I think I hope he had a good time. It seems like he did. He was definitely being playful with the puppets, not just, you know, reading his lines and going home. Yeah. So I'm glad that people like that. It's what the Muppets have such a big library of characters, and it's always a shame when someone gets, you know, put away. Yeah. And a lot of times, again, it's because, I mean, we tried to bring stuff back from the original Muppet Show, you know, JP Gross was dust. Yeah. You know, he's not been used since the original. So he literally, I don't even know, he might be in a museum somewhere. And some of the Muppets from Treasure Island I wanted to bring in, but again, they were fairly rotted away.
Well, I didn't notice until my second viewing that Phil Van Nuter is in the background.
Yeah, Phil Van Nuter. Rizzo does have a quick cameo.
He does.
You gotta watch it. Yes, you gotta watch it pretty closely, but he's in there. I mean, you know, at the dance we have Beautiful Day. We've got
At the Dance was a great little callback as well.
Thank you. Well, that's me being a Muppet guy and a Haunted Mansion guy. I said, oh my God, the ballroom dancers we have to do at the dance scene. And we have to have Rolf with the organ, and we have to have Muppet skulls, you know, moaning as they come. If you know the Mansion and you know the Muppets, it's kind of, we had enough characters to kind of, that would be perfect for Rolf. I mean, that's the guy he'd be.
It's amazing how much of this thing just overlaps. Like, you never would have thought about it before this special. I did. Well, yeah, you did. 30 years. Well, I mean, look, God knows that they've overlaid Haunted Mansion with Nightmare Before Christmas. Maybe
Which
let's
drives
get
me
some
nuts.
Muppets in there.
I don't dislike it. I just don't like the fact that when you go for Halloween, it's
They
a
have
Christmas
Christmas.
ride.
100%.
Yeah, that's the thing that
100%.
bugs me. I think they should, they should shut it down November 1st and make it Christmas through the end of January, which they do. But now it's like in August, like August 27th, they shut.
It's like
the
almost
ride down.
6 months of it now.
Which I don't. To me, I don't go in the Haunted Mansion to see Christmas cutouts. I know some people love it, so
yeah.
I don't know if we're a majority or not. But then people have said, they only do that in Disneyland, so they've been suggesting in Disney World doing a Muppet layover.
I think it would work.
It would work. The thing is tricky is like you have to redo. I mean, we basically redid all the architecture and the characters.
True,
so
that's a good point.
It would be a huge job. It would basically be like, oh, let's just remake the Haunted Mansion.
Well, I mean, the Muppets are under Imagineering, so
no,
who knows?
I mean, maybe they could just do a few, like have Piggy in the ball, have Piggy as Pagoda.
Yeah, Piggy in the Pagoda. You have
Fozzie, have Fozzie as the Hatbox Ghost.
Yeah, and you just put a couple of you just put a Pepe with the bride, and off you go.
Yeah, exactly. Have Pepe up there sitting in her lap, going, "No, you're the boo." I mean, yeah, you could probably do it with but animatronic characters are the most expensive things.
Yeah,
to do.
true.
And even the architecture. Yeah, I don't know. My pitch would be do it as a VR ride. I don't know if Disney's getting into VR, but have the Muppets Haunted Mansion. We generated all the backgrounds. I mean, it's already, assets, as they say, that they own.
Yeah.
So you could, and in fact, my production designer is so meticulous. She put it together so it really is the ride. Like up until after the ballroom, it kind of falls apart because then that's the graveyard essentially. Or you go into the attic. No, so after the attic, it isn't the ride, but all the way up through the attic, which is 2/3 of the ride, the rest of it's just the graveyard, which we put out front.
Yeah,
you could do a Muppet walkthrough.
Yeah,
of the architecture and because it's all there and it's lit and it's in real time. Geez, I just think I gave them an idea.
Yeah, great. All right.
There you go.
Do I get credit because I was here when it happens?
No.
All right, fair enough. Worth a shot.
Hollywood works.
Look,
I don't get credit either because I don't own any of it.
True. Well, look, I won't take too much more of your time. A couple of quick things. One is that one of my favorite characters of all time, and is criminally underused, and it's fair enough because he isn't really even much of a character, is Angel Marie.
Oh, I love Angel Marie.
Okay,
that was my one of my first characters I ever created.
Those I loved that design. Those
I did not design Angel Marie though. I wrote Angel Marie.
Okay, those tiki cups, I think at one point they get handed to. Are those real?
Yeah, those were not CG. Those are real.
Can I have them?
No.
Damn it.
Well, it's funny because I said, well, here was the thing, and this is one that we're talking about PC stuff. Originally, the chef said, freaky tiki drinks, and they said they came back because there's a big backlash against tiki right now.
Yeah,
and that tikis are religious characters and spiritual embodiments. And I said, well, what if? Because at that point, I said, well, the tiki mugs shouldn't be, actual tiki mugs. They should be like Muppety. And then one of the guys in the shop said, what if they're Angel Marie's head? And they did up a little rendering of it, I think. And I think, or maybe it was, it might have been Jasper and Darcy. Yep. Anyway, they showed me this 3D model. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, he's a pirate. That's the other thing you could do with tiki. You could do pirates and stuff. So I said, that's great. So we made the tiki mugs, but the chef couldn't say tiki. So he says tutti frutti. Okay. Here's the drinking, here's the tutti frutti. So again, it doesn't destroy the movie or anything, but it was like, because I thought we can't do tiki drinks. So I said, no, you just can't say the word. Or can't have the chef say tiki drink. Yeah. So now he says, the tutti frutti. And yes, I love those. I think they should, that should be Trader Sam's, special for next year. They need some time to, and they were tiny because remember they're Muppet size.
Yeah, true.
So you'd need to scale. But there is a 3D model of it. Someone has a 3D model because they were printed. So I'm sure you could scale it up and put a hand, because there was no handle on it. They were the classic, like barrel shape. I guess you wouldn't need a handle, but yeah, I would love that. I think, I would.
Well, because you're such a fan of like the tiki room and everything like that, aren't you? And Trader Sam. So,
well, yeah, this is a haunted tiki room.
I mean, we're looking at
Jeff Granito. So, I mean, yeah, I wanted to do a haunted, and I'm noodling around a haunted tiki room, not Disney tiki room. I don't think that would be
Yeah.
a matchup, but just a haunted tiki something. I don't know, a TV show or a special that wouldn't necessarily involve the Muppets at all. But
Yeah. Well,
I would like to just do, if I could do a Halloween special every year, I would die a happy man.
Well, I'll be there to watch every single one of them.
I should just make a deal with Disney. I'll be your Halloween special guy.
Yeah, I mean, great. Let's get it going. Look, I won't take any more of your time, Kirk. Just as I've said to you, I mean, privately and before we even started here, just thank you for making something that was genuinely excellent. Like, I would put it in probably, for me, top 3 of the last 10 years.
Thank you.
Along with, say, Muppets Most Wanted, and then the live shows, which you also worked on.
Well, and then of course, Muppet Wizard of Oz, which I know secretly you say everyone hates. I love this. That's what you keep telling me. Like, it's your favorite thing ever.
I said the last 10 years.
You're very safe. You're
also,
very safe.
I will admit that I don't mind Muppets Wizard of Oz. It has some great moments.
I would say there's problems with it, but they aren't the Muppets.
Yeah, fair enough too. I mean, just the nipple gag, but anyway.
Come on, that was genius.
Hey, that's a good gag. But yes, look, thank you for making that. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Thank you for everything. You've always been so nice to me over the last, however long I've known you. And
to Australians.
Well, I mean, come on over and hang out, because
look what you guys have to deal with. Jesus, you're on fire last year, this year, and
this year we're just I haven't left my house in 2 months.
What's next year? I'm expecting either a volcano or Australia's going to sink 30 feet, and all the coastal towns. I don't know.
That's fine, because I think my town's like 35 feet.
There you go.
So I think I should be all right.
Well, then you have beach. Then you'll be the new Bondi. Yeah.
Exactly right. Beach front at my door. Thanks, Kirk.
Take care, man. Have a good one.